Hi everyone. Wanted to send a video summary of the week and just talk to you a little bit about how I was noticing the week went. I have to have reminders. I wrote this down soon after we went into COVID because interactions are really important to me in the classroom, and I was having a really hard time moving instruction online. And so I just have this mantra that I want interactions over content. Content is important and significant, but if we don't have interactions in our learning, either in our own context where we work with others or in our classes that we take, I think we've kind of lost the point. So I wanted to start with that because you guys are knocking this out of the park. I have had so much fun watching your Flipgrid statements and your interaction with each other, and realizing that you have some of the same inquiries, that you have some of the same questions, and I think I have some recommendations based on that, just that I want you to think about over the next few days before we launch into Module 2. I would like you to go back into the Flipgrid and maybe watch a couple of minutes of the first of others, especially if you made a connection with the grade level or the content or the wondering or the program. Several of you are in a GT setting. Several of you are in a preschool setting. Some of you are in an intervention setting, mathematics setting. And although you're going to have other questions, it might be interesting to know who can you kind of loop in your wondering when you're moving through. So go back to the Flipgrid and maybe do a little of looking around. Also, I know everybody has really crazy schedules right now with kids at home, and some people didn't get a chance to do their initial flip until just like yesterday, and I want to make sure that everybody has a reply and a response. So please go back in, take a look at the most recent flips that don't have a reply or response, and help each other out, because my next comment is the responses that other people are giving you to your inquiry are going to help you narrow the search. Some of you have very specific questions that you want to look at, and that's great. But sometimes even those questions are really broad. So for example, and I'm going to pick on some of you because they're in my head. Someone wanted to look at both, where is it? I have a whole list because I wrote down all of your topics. Someone wanted to look at both engagement and achievement. Taylor, I think this was you, in horizontal alignment. Brilliant topic. But engagement is this big and achievement is this big. So I want you to start thinking before we hit Module 2, how can you narrow the topic down? How can you ask a question that isn't a yes or no question, that maybe starts with in what ways, right? In what ways does kinesthetic learning aid math intervention? In what ways does culturally relevant science instruction impact students socially or academically? The reason I need you to narrow down the search is because when you launch into searching, having those keywords and having a more narrow perspective will help you. Academic research is niche. Everyone has a little niche, and sometimes it just blows me away how narrow it can be. So think about your students. You can narrow it by your grade level. You can narrow it by the specific type of student. You can narrow it by your geography. It might be in what ways do I promote self-determination in preschools in a rural setting, right? We need to maybe bring it in a little bit so that when you do a search, you're not finding that you're skimming and scanning a million articles trying to find an alignment to your question. So the more narrow you can get it, the better. And that made me remember something I did when I taught face-to-face, is that we would do a whiteboard splash of our questions, and then we would vet them against each other, and I would help you narrow them. So I'm going to put a format for that up so that everybody can kind of put their questions, and I can give you some specific feedback before you start looking. The only other reminder that I have, make sure that you give each other feedback on your inquiry statements. They should all be in the formative 1 folder by now, so please go in. And I've put some questions and some thoughts in the activities or in the formative document, so that if you're not sure how to respond, there's some tips in there. So be sure to give folks some tips on their inquiry, And if you haven't already, if you are able to come to the Zoom on Tuesday with Kelsey Keys in the library, she is super, super helpful. And if you don't, we'll record it and we'll push it out. But sometimes it's really nice if you're able to do the real time thing to be there. So thank you so much for your engagement this week with each other. These are strange days, and you guys are killing it. And I think you're really well positioned to launch it into Module 2. After I have a snack, I'm going to be recording the video for Module 2, so you should have a little bit more direction there really soon. Thanks to everyone.